Thank you, Mike. I have a problem with good people. I have a problem with good people. I think one of the greatest myths in church life is the belief that spiritual transformation is only for outsiders. We assume change is for unbelievers, that renewal is for outsiders, that the only people that need transformation is the people outside of church. And I have a problem with that because when I read Acts chapter 9, that's a different story. Saul, you're familiar with Saul, later Paul, he was not an atheist. He was a believer. He was not indifferent to God. He loved God. He was not spiritually lazy. He was actually doing God's business in his mind. He was passionate. He was committed, disciplined. He was willing to sacrifice everything for the cause. I mean, Saul knew about business, spiritual business. Despite all of that, Jesus met with him in Damascus and said, Saul, let me reinvent your life. Reinvent your life. Sometimes the people closest to religion are the very people who most need renewal. And I'm going to say it again. It's the people, sometimes the people who are in the church, the ones needing a renewal. A renewal. Acts 9 reminds us that every faithful believer eventually has a Damascus moment. I wonder when was your Damascus moment? You remember that day? When everything changed? Everything went the other way as you planned it. That leads me, well, if I'm honest, every believer, every family, every ministry, every church eventually reaches a moment when Jesus asks, hey, are you willing to become something more than what you are right now? And that's probably my question to New Beginnings for you. Are you willing to be something that you are not right now? Willingness. Are you willing to be more of what you are right now? That leads me to my principle number 1, which I skipped the commitment. You can be sincere and still need direction. And you can be sincere and still need a new direction. You can have a pure heart, but still needing a new direction, because passion without Jesus is still the wrong road. You can be very passionate about church, programs, events, activities, but your heart about Jesus is far away. You're more invested in family or your work or your worries or your anxieties or your politics or your demographics or all those things that get your attention, except the passion for Christ. Notice that Luke, in the book of Acts, doesn't say that Paul or Saul was lazy. It doesn't say that he was not committed. It doesn't say that he was spiritually apathetic. He had passion. He had conviction. Yes. The problem was not conviction. The problem was direction. I just want you to imagine that you are in a plane. You're trying to go to Florida. Okay? Anybody from Florida here? No? Okay. Florida. From George Bush to Florida. And you get into the plane and you realize that you're flying in first class. First class. And then you get there, spacious seats, delicious food, and the service, amazing. Food, drinks, everything is amazing. I mean, the plane is flying so whatever planes do, nice. And suddenly, you hear the captain saying, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for flying, because you don't understand anything that they say, right? They say, and then you realize that he says, in 10 minutes, we're going to land in New York. What? New York? I was supposed to go to Florida. In that moment, you realize that you don't care about the drinks or the food or the incredible trip. Because none of that is important. What is important is direction. It's not commitment. It's not sacrifice. It's not all the amenities. It's direction. And sometimes that's what we lack in churches. Sometimes that's what we lack in our families. Great family, great kids you have. Fantastic job that you have. But we don't have direction. That's what happened with our friend Saul. That leads me to my but no church, this is one thing that I want to emphasize. No church can survive if people have not decided in their hearts first, like Joshua said, and as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Principle number 2. Jesus interrupts what he intends to transform. That's what I learned from this story. Because Saul was decided. He was going to a place to get business done. As the old ancient proverb says, taking care of business. Is that a song? That's a song. I'm sorry, I confused. Taking care of business. He was doing that. He says, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He was not looking for Jesus, but Jesus was looking for him. Everything changed in a moment. The journey stopped. The plan changed. The assumptions stopped. The certainty stopped. And Jesus asked a question. You remember the question? Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? He was not asking about, why are you persecuting me as the Lord? Why are you persecuting the church, the believers? What an incredible moment. Jesus did not merely correct Saul's behavior. He transformed him. That's what I'm talking about. Sometimes when people get to church, they just change habits. They used to use foul language before going to church. Now they don't use it anymore. Instead of, when they used to get upset and say bad words, like, all this bad. Now they don't use those words, but they use other words. I used to tell the church that I used to preach, you can change. Instead of saying foul words, you can use, when you're upset, just say the books of the Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy. I mean, same thing. You're getting all your anger, but you are using the Bible. It's, very... But this is the lesson from Damascus. The light changed Saul before the mission changed Saul. The heart moved before the feet move. The inside changed before the outside. The heart before the outside. And principle number 3, the future begins when we say yes. In other words, reinvention begins when we surrender. When we are not more fighting against God. One of the most beautiful moments in Acts is when Saul asked the question, what do you want me to do? What is that you're expecting from me? And the Lord didn't give him a detailed plan. Oh, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. He just said, go back to the city. Because usually that's what God says. God doesn't give you a full plan. He just gives you the next step. And that's what happened. And I don't see Paul or Saul saying, oh, I don't want to go back to that city. It's too far away. I don't want to do this. He entered into complete surrender. God is always building something larger. Just listen to this, New Beginnings. God is always building something larger than our current understanding. You don't understand what is going to happen, but God is working on that. The question is whether we're willing to keep saying yes. So I've been praying and asking for God for direction. Lord, what is the vision for this church? Do we have a vision? What is the mission of New Beginnings? Do we have a mission? And for some reason, these words keep coming to my mind. I was sharing with some of you that I discovered that for some reason, many churches today, they're always thinking, we are here to reach the next generation. And the next generation, the new generation, the young people. And I have a problem with that. Because the next generation, yeah, it's important, of course. But what about the seniors? What about the old generation? So just because they are old, they don't deserve to be minister? What is the age where you stop being relevant for Christ? So just because you are a senior you don't have anxieties? Is that what you're telling me? That's why the next generation? Just because you are a senior person, you don't have fears? Oh, after 60, you have overcome everything. I don't think so. So I think God is leading us to a vision, to a different vision. This is what I wrote. To be a Christ-centered, diverse, and multi-generational church that brings hope, healing, and new beginnings to every life, not just the new generation. Oh, just to the young, just to the good-looking. Oh my God, I'm done. Nobody's going to minister. Just to everyone, like Jesus. New beginnings to every life in our community. That vision will never be achieved through facilities. Oh, now we have this facility, this beautiful building. Oh, now we fulfill the mission, the vision. It's not about being achieved through programs. We're going to have this program or this program, and then we're going to fulfill the vision. It will never be achieved through announcements or, it happens only when people continually allow Jesus to reinvent them. When you allow God to reinvent your life. And our mission will say, we share the gospel, cultivate authentic community, and serve our neighbors to bring hope, healing, and new beginnings through Jesus. It's not through you, it's through Jesus. I think when we reinvent ourselves, not just as individuals, as a family, but also as a church, what if we take a new path? Passion without Jesus is still the wrong road. God's interruptions are often invitations, and reinvention begins when surrender starts. Because every faithful believer eventually arrives at Damascus. The question is not whether if Jesus is calling you. The question is if you are going to answer, if you have the willingness to answer. Let's pray. Creator,